Figure Bytes. Figure Bytes. Figure Bytes.
Welcome to another episode of Figure Bytes. I'm six-figure breakthrough coach Wei Houng from the Six Figure Academy. And I'm here today on actually a Sunday because I felt compelled to do a piece about something that came to me over the weekend as I was thinking about what is some of the underlying things that have prevented me or prevented other people or some of my clients from achieving the success that despite taking action that would normally lead someone to success. What I call the silent saboteur, if you will, also known as the silent ego. So today we're going to talk about the silent ego and what the silent ego can do and how it's different from the greater ego, which is the ego that we all know about and work on coming to terms with in our entire lives. I mean, we all know about the ego. We all know how it can get in the way from us doing things necessary for success. It can get in the way of our relationships. It can get in the way from us even going to the gym. That greater ego is the main focal point of a lot of work out there with psychologists, psychiatrists, philosophers, Carl Jung. We're talking about everything there is about that ego that man has. There are some that say that we have to do away with the ego. In fact, I grew up thinking, we got to get rid of the ego altogether. However, there are aspects of the ego that are absolutely necessary as a way for us to make sure that we even show up every single day. So we're not going to talk about the ego. There's enough stuff out there to talk about that ego. When it comes to six-figure success, there is a much, much dangerous type of ego that we all have. Like I said, it is called the silent ego, the silent saboteur. The silent ego is actually 10 times more powerful because it's 10 times smarter than your outward and more ostentatious ego that actually stops you from taking action. The silent ego actually waits. It allows you to actually take action, and while you're taking action on the things that you need to do to push yourself, your life forward, or your business forward, and make the changes necessary to change your life, that's when it shows up. But it doesn't show up in a very, very obvious way. It literally whispers. It is that whispering part of the ego that doesn't have an impact on anybody else in this world except you, which ultimately then helps you impact others that way as well. This silent ego whispering things like, are you sure you're going to be able to do that? That voice that sits there inside and says, I know you just agreed to this. I know this is a big commitment for you, but what if it doesn't work? What if the person that you're working with is so full of it that they've got you convinced? What if you've been stupid all this time? Watch what happens. You're going to see what happens when it doesn't work. But what if it does? And what if it does and then you totally screw it up again? Now, keep in mind, the silent ego never speaks out loud. It actually comes from a deeper part of your most profound beliefs and programming. We're talking about beliefs and learnings that we develop from the age of 0 to 7, if not earlier. There are concepts where, when you're in the womb, that you can start developing thoughts and processes and everything based on what you hear through, your mother's stomach and everything like that. But we're not going to get into that right now. But for the sake of determining what area of life the silent ego has retrieved most of its information, we're talking about beliefs and learnings from around 0 to 7 years old. The ages where you are most impressionable, if you will. And the funny thing about the silent ego, unlike the greater ego, that ostentatious ego, is that it doesn't have any desire to ever come up to the surface. Like I said, unlike that greater ego that cries to be heard, to be seen, to be nurtured, the silent ego has become so comfortable, like those deep, deep sea fishes that actually survive perfectly fine without light. And when it's brought to the surface, it literally cannot survive. So it's become so comfortable in the depths of your being that it can literally survive your entire life, never being noticed, never being touched, and people just wonder why, and you work around that silent ego, and life becomes a little bit more difficult than absolutely necessary. It usually only waits till you're actually doing something really big, really scary, and really different than what the greater ego has been taking care of. That's when it reveals itself. And that's why it's so dangerous. What I want to bring your attention to today is one of the first things that you can do to address not only, there are all techniques out there on how to address that greater outward ego that everybody talks about and can see. The silent ego nobody sees and except you. So what I want to talk about today is how then do we handle that silent ego? Here's the interesting thing is that when that silent ego comes up, it's used to being squashed. It's used to being pushed down to the depths even further. In fact, it wants you to. Every time it comes up and you get upset and you contradict it, it smiles and waits for you to push it down further because it knows that the deeper you push it down there, the easier it is for it to continue to survive. So what do we do about that? Just like anything else that is used to living without light, being completely based on blind survival in the darkness, in the cold, when you change its environment, bring it to the surface, it literally kills it. Not that we want to kill that silent ego, but we want to bring it to surface slowly and surely so we can allow it to start to adapt and adjust and see itself for what it really is. See, the silent ego is so rooted in what it is there to do that it's conviction to its purpose that it doesn't think it's doing anything wrong. Unlike the greater ego, that there's a dichotomy of it knowing that it should be helped and nurtured and accepted and heard and seen. The silent ego has none of that. So the way to take care of one of the first things that you can do is that awareness. That awareness that you now have from this podcast at 6 Figure Bytes to help you make that 6-figure lifestyle something that is with what my coach would like to say, with something that we can achieve with ease and grace. So how do we do this? We all have journals. And if you don't, and if you haven't already, and you've been listening to this podcast, by all means, what are you waiting for? Go out and get one. And we'll have a whole separate thing about the power of handwriting, your thoughts and your processes, your insights and your ideas and your goals. But let's assume that you have that journal. And as soon as you allow yourself to have that awareness of that silent ego, open up your mind when you are doing something that you know is going to have a direct impact on your success. And what comes up to create a bit of a struggle, creates a bit of a reason to procrastinate, or a reason to judge or doubt the actions that you're taking. When that comes up, bring that silent ego to light. Bring it to light by writing down all your what-if scenarios. Okay? Talking about and think about it is not enough because it just stays up there in the ether. By writing it down, you bring it to the physical world and you actualize it and make it real so that the silent ego itself can see the validity of its questions. So you can start writing everything down. You write the questions, you write the what ifs, and you play out the entire scenario, worst case scenario, if you were to play out what the silent ego is saying to you. What if it doesn't work? You're right. What if it doesn't work? And you write that down. What if I invested all this money into my coach and I follow everything that this coach tells me to do? And then after I follow this thing and all the stuff, all the techniques that I do, and if it doesn't work, what will happen? And then you write that down. Will I die? Will I not be able to survive? Will I not achieve the success that I want? And how is that possible? So how will that happen? And you will find that when we bring the silent ego to the surface this way, that the silent ego's logic will start to get questioned. And then you actually don't have to do the work of convincing the silent ego. The silent ego, the silent saboteur, ends up questioning itself. And allows, because remember, it is 10 times smarter than your ostentatious greater ego, so that it actually has an ability to self-correct and make itself better. So that simple task right there, that simple exercise can help immediately bring that to the surface. There are a variety of other techniques to kind of break through that silent ego into the light of your being and whoever, and that's a lot of what we do here at the Six Figure Academy. But that first step right there has been able to change lives literally by bringing that silent ego to light and to the surface. So that is your six-figure bite for you this nice evening, Sunday evening, that I decided I wanted to create this for you. So hopefully you got some value out of it. And if you had a chance to watch the video, you'll see how I am in my Sunday attire. But look for the next podcast, the Six Figure Byte podcast. If you found that this has been a valuable one for you, like I said, sharing is caring, so definitely share it. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because this is also being videoed as well. And remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you haven't subscribed to our blog yet, go to the6figureacademy.com. That's the number 6, figureacademy.com. Subscribe so that you don't miss another episode of Six Figure Bytes. Tune in next time for your next Six Figure Byte.
Six Figure Bytes. Six Figure Bytes. Six Figure Bytes.